What's up, Kev?
Dana, could you just, the Torres Finney story is, to me, is amazing. Like a lot of great stories tonight, but Finney's redemption and everything was just remarkable. Can you expand on what you thought of his performance, and were you at all biased against him going in, given you had seen him 2 times before and weren't impressed?
Yeah, so the way that I try to set my mind when I come into this thing, there's no bias. I don't even know anybody on this card until I sit down and look at the paper. I don't know who they train with, what school they're with, if they're with any other UFC fighters or any of that shit. So I try to stay as unbiased as possible. And when a guy comes in for the 3rd time, I lean more on the side of respect, that the fact that he's coming back and saying, okay, then I need to prove myself again. I need to prove myself again. So like I said, I went through his whole family and him. You can't deny that that kid showed up with a complete different energy tonight. Not just fighting, and just his whole attitude and personality was completely different tonight.
Did any of them, when you talked to them, any of them say anything to you like about what might have sparked a change in him?
No, I didn't ask anything. I just came out here tonight. This show starts at 5 o'clock. I show up at like 5:06. I walk right out to the seat and I sit down and I watch, and I'll read, their stats and this and that. I know they're good, or Sean and Mick wouldn't have them here. I just watched the fight.
You said the last time, and it was kind of a tough moment to watch him sit there, and you said you would be decimated in the UFC.
Yeah.
Now that you see him and doing this, how do you think he performs? Would he be decimated against equally talented UFC fighters?
Yeah, that's what we're going to find out. I told him, you did not impress me. I think you get destroyed in this division over here. And he went back and, he came back and handled business.
The other thing I wanted to ask you about was David Martinez, a guy that he shouldn't be doing this by all rights, right? A freaking doctor and, and everything, right? And he's here fighting professionally and smart in the ring and everything. What was when you saw him out there, like, what was your first take on him?
I love this kid. I think this kid is very special. The kid hasn't stood out like this to me in a while. I actually think he is ready to dive right into them. I mean, he's 11-1 now. He's only 26 years old. He's coming to his prime. I think he's got, obviously he's got KO power. He's got, 9 KOs. Great takedown defense. Leg kicks were on point. But like I said, fight IQ, off the charts. I think I told you this last week. We have this board that we just built. It's the Who to Watch. I literally want David Martinez at the top of the Who to Watch board.
And last thing for me, you were very complimentary of Jacoby. Can you share some of what DC was telling you? Because, DC likes to, pump up fighters, but, you don't hear him often mentioning somebody in the same breath as Khabib.
And I since Khabib, when we didn't really know Khabib and all his, Cormier could not stop talking about Khabib. And he's like, I'm telling you, wait till this guy bursts on the scene. Wait till this guy does this. Wait till this guy does that. And that's how he's talking about Jacoby. So we will see.
Dana, sticking on Jacoby, I know you said that David Martinez you felt was very special, but to me, Jacoby had the craziest performance tonight, right?
The difference is that I think that from what I saw, Martinez looks seasoned and just, Jacoby looks like raw talent. What couldn't that guy do tonight? I mean, he was fucking throwing that guy. Whatever he wanted to do, he did. There's obviously talent there, but I think there's a lot of raw athletic ability with him too. So, like I said, I haven't seen somebody like this in a very long time that wasn't already in the UFC. He was very impressive.
Yeah, and he was like heavy favorite, but that's what a heavy favorite is meant to do, right?
100%.
Ragdoll this guy and smash him to pieces.
When you're a 6-1 favorite, that's exactly what you better look like.
Yeah. And it's interesting, right? I feel like recently there's been this talk again of like boring wrestlers in the UFC. We've seen a couple of like grinding out decisions, but then you see a guy like him come in, finish attempts, like just going for the finish. It shows you that wrestling can be exciting. It's just about the style that you use in the cage.
Yeah, this poor Christian was in trouble everywhere the fight went. No matter where the fight went, this kid was in trouble. And the pressure that Jacoby put on him the entire time. And then the question became, is he going to gas? Can he keep this pace? Because when you look at him, you know, he's 8-0 with 6 first-round finishes. You know what I mean? So that's one of the first things I look at. I'm like, all right, he's 8-0, 6 first-round finishes. How's he going to look in the second and third round? And I don't know. Looked damn good to me.
For Torres Finney, right, I think one of the benefits of the Contender Series is every so often you'll get like a weird storyline that just kind of pops up and it makes them more recognizable to the UFC fan base, right? Joe Pyfe is the famous one. For this guy, right, he came here 3 times, took him 3 times, and he finally got in. Does this make him go into the UFC and his debut is already more anticipated than he would be if he was coming as a champion from a lower organization?
It's one of the things that I love about the show. One of the many things that I love is that, you know, when all these kids come in, they already have some type of hype around them.
Yeah. Earlier today, you did an interview with Kevin, and you mentioned that it wasn't necessarily true Francis made more money boxing than he would have if he stayed in the UFC.
Right.
My question to you is, you always said, oh, he didn't want to stick around because he didn't want to fight John Jones. Why didn't you mention the fact that he would have made more money to fight John then? It would have sort of backed up your point. Why did it take you until now to bring it up?
Because why? I don't give a shit. What's the difference?
I just think it's interesting for people to realize.
Because I know all the shit that you people don't know. Yeah. And I don't care what everybody says. It doesn't matter to me. But that's a fact. He was offered more money. Because I know the real numbers. I know the real numbers. And let me tell you what. I don't want to call him out, but let me tell you what. He'd have done anything to make that fucking fight. And he tried to. Yeah.
You also mentioned in boxing, you know, there are Saudi trillionaires that are getting a little bit bored of some of the bullshit that comes along with boxing. Have you sort of looked at boxing? I know you said that you want to get into it. Are you now having second guesses, right? Every time it seems that you start...
I always second guess myself. Every time I start dealing with some of the stuff, I'm like, am I on my mind?
Why do it then? Why try it? Just...
Because why not? This is what I do. You know, this was just all about timing, and I just feel like right now is the right time. I mean, we went through this the other day. Kevin was asking me, why now? I don't know. I just feel like right now is the time. I waited and waited and waited, and I don't know. I feel it.
Hey, Dana, you mentioned that, I don't know if it's seriously or joking, that you'd like to see AI do the rankings. And we actually asked AI. I'm curious if you'd like to know who the top 5 are that AI picked for pound. So it's Alexander Volkanovski, Islam, Leon Edwards, Charles Oliveira, and Aljamain Sterling.
Yeah. I don't know what AI you're using. MMA Junkie AI?
I'm just curious what you use. So you don't
Listen,
agree?
when we get a real AI platform in place.
So it was ChatGPT.
I can't wait.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, Dana, I was just, you know, David Martinez and Jacoby Smith had a lot of hype coming into the show. They obviously showed out. And obviously you see something in them. You kind of alluded to it. Like, are you ready to throw David Martinez in the deep end in the UFC in like the rank, like a top 25 ranking to see like where he is?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know where we would throw him in, but you know, we get in a matchmaking room and we all start talking and we figure that type of stuff out. I'm not saying that this kid, you throw him right in the deep water. It's going to be his first fight in the UFC. I don't care who you are, where you came from, or how good you are. If you fucking fought in Bellator or this one or that one for many years and you were a champion, when you come here for your first fight, it's another level. And it's not just competition-wise, but nerves, you know, crowds, the energy, everything is different when you step into the octagon.
I wanted your reaction to UFC Paris. The crowd was unreal. And that main event, we kind of talked about it last week, but it lived up, and Moicano beat the shit out of BSD. So what was your thoughts on that?
It was incredible. I mean, I was here, and the energy from a Paris show comes through on television. I mean, the fans in Paris, Hunter tells me all the time, Hunter's like, you have no idea, man, the Paris crowd, and you know, you feel it on TV. It's awesome.
I'm assuming you had matchmaking today. Was Moicano versus Patty Pimblett talked about it all, or?
Not today. We were working on other stuff today. But, yes, we had matchmaking today.
Is Moicano, I mean, that win was really big for him. Does he get a big fight after that?
We won't talk about Moicano for a couple more weeks. So we won't even talk about him for a couple more weeks. First of all, I mean, you saw what happened to him, right? I mean, it's going to be a minute before he's even discussed.
Does that make his win, I mean, even more bigger in your eyes because he fought with that nasty injury?
Yeah, I mean, it was incredible what he was able to do with that injury. Yeah, and sitting in the corner was never even a concern. It's not even like they were, yeah, and they're lucky because if Saint Denis' eye didn't look like that, and the doctor went over to the other side, fight's off.
And then just talk about Salt Lake City this weekend, big main event. Alex Pereira is the guy right now, right? So what does a win over Khalil Roundtree do for him in your eyes?
It's another title defense. It's another title defense against a guy who is absolutely positively capable of beating him.
And finally, for me, have there been any more discussions about UFC Africa and what you're doing for that? Is it a fight night or is it going to be a pay-per-view?
I have no updates on that yet, but it's being worked on, yes.
Cool. Thank you.
Yep.
Dana right here in the back. Just going back to UFC Paris, Brendan Allen lofted some pretty strong accusations against the French MMA Commission. Moicano seemed to echo those today on his podcast. Does the UFC take any steps and do an investigation of their own?
No.
Or talk to the commission or talk to the team?
It's not true.
Okay.
It's not true. They were feeling like they were being singled out. The French guys were available. I mean, they have their own doping organization that they use. And, did they make probably bad judgment around the weigh-in time? Yes. It's when those guys are the most miserable, dehydrated. The list goes on and on. There was no foul play whatsoever with them. But we get why they felt that way. But it wasn't true.
Dana over here. Amongst the standouts tonight was Montez' performance against Calderon. I just want to get your thoughts on that because it seemed like Montez had the steering wheel, but Calderon just couldn't get out of his face and just at times put Montez in big danger. So what was your emotions like through that fight? Every time I glanced over, it seemed like you guys were enjoying it.
He's on my bad side. What did he say? I mean my bad ear, not my bad side.
Oh, I was talking about the Montez-Calderon fight. Yeah. The one that ended Anaconda. So I was asking your thoughts on that fight. I mean, every time I turned around, it looked like you three were really enjoying the fight, and just Calderon was not getting off the pressure on Montez. So I just want to get your thoughts on that fight.
Yeah. Listen, tonight was as good as it can get. I mean, it wasn't one of these nights where there's like, oh, these crazy knockouts where we're losing our minds. There were some badass fights tonight. I mean, every kid, no matter what the odds were, came here to fight, came here to win. And tonight's what the Contender Series is all about.
For sure. No, one of the announcements in these past couple of weeks was the Michael Chandler return to fight Charles Oliveira. He said that he may not be, or McGregor may not be his next opponent, but he definitely thinks he will be Conor's next opponent. Do you think that's a logical assessment, or do you think it's time to flip the page on that fight?
I have no idea. Like I said to Kevin today, Conor will fight in 2025. So however it plays out as we lead up to him being ready, I have no clue.
Sure. And obviously, like Alex said, Alex Pereira is the guy right now. But what do you think a win for Khalil Roundtree would do, especially for you as a Vegas guy? I know Khalil got emotional when speaking about potentially bringing the title back to the city of Las Vegas. What do you think that would do for him?
It's life-changing for him. I mean, if he wins this fight, it's literally life-changing. It will completely change his life. Yeah. Good? All right. Good night, everybody.